Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the second episode of the Sync Room, a series by Exalate. We're going to give some time for attendees to arrive. How are you doing, Majid?
I'm all good. Thank you for asking.
Very good. Okay. So, all right, let's very slowly start before everybody arrives. So, welcome everybody to the second episode. In the first episode, we covered everything around ticket escalation and all the hurdles around it and how integration can actually take the pain away. In this episode, we are going to focus on ITSM integration strategy and how email is not a strategy. We'll hear more about that. Here with me, I have Majid, our head of support and services. I'll pass it to you, Majid, for a quick intro.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Manoj. Yeah, you already introduced me. I've been at Exalate for 4 years doing support services, integrations, and everything in between. So yeah, pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much. And I'm Manoush. I'm the head of marketing, and I will be the host today. I'll try to keep it short. We'll try to keep it like super practical, informative for you guys. Before we dive right in, so please, if you have any questions, drop them in the Q&A tab so we can get to them at the very end of the webinar and answer all your questions. And you can use the chat for other purposes. All right, so let's dive in. Majid, what does a broken ITSM integration actually look like? Can you walk us through one of those many scenarios that you deal with day in and day out?
Yeah, absolutely. A broken ITSM integration is absolutely painful. And keeping the theme of our webinar, like email as the glue between the systems, let's build up a context. So imagine a large SaaS operation, a large SaaS organization that is working globally. It has specialized teams. They each work in their own system of choice. And then obviously they need to collaborate to deliver customer value eventually, right? So imagine a customer support team that is working in Jira Service Management, pretty common scenario. And that support team needs to liaise consistently with engineering who work in a Jira software system. Could be the same instance, but for this example, assume that it's a different instance that they're working in. And then you have the third pillar, which is the cloud operations team, which is supposed to handle the infrastructure, the production deployments, and all that. So it's a chain that works in each business, right? Support kind of create an issue, a bug that they want resolved. Engineering resolves it within the code base, and cloud ops deploy it to customers' production environment. And all those pieces need to align in order to get this working. Now, if you are using email and Slack as a communication medium between these three teams, because there are three independent systems, three independent teams, and they need to collaborate, right? So let's see how, in a scenario, in a high pace scenario, how that would break. So imagine a customer reporting a P1 incident, claiming a security breach, a data leak sort of a scenario, which is an absolutely crucial incident. Now, the support agent picks it up within seconds, realizes the severity of it, collects all the logging, and then goes into engineering's Jira and files a ticket. Everything so far, so good. The engineers pick it up, start working on it, and start diving deeper into it. And let's assume, for the sake of argument, that they solve it within 30 minutes. They find the issue, they're able to plug the leak, and now they are reliant on cloud ops to get the deployment done via them. Now, the support agent on his side is kind of waiting for an update, right? What the engineer has done wrongly here is he's not sent a Slack message or an email to them saying that, listen, hold your horses. The thing is, the leak is plugged. We're good here, right? Support are burning. They're escalating it to their management, who's then escalating it to engineering management. And in all this time, it's actually done, right? So that kind of flow, it just introduces so many inefficiencies, so many missed balls, that the problem, which could have been plugged within an hour, exasperates to leadership, and it becomes an entire mess. Time and time again, we've seen that. So this chaotic situation, organizations kind of tend to normalize this, right? They kind of tend to assume that this is how P1s go. It's a high pressure situation, but no, it shouldn't be like that. It should be
Mhm.
a synced system working nicely.
For sure. I think that's we have all like been introduced to this type of like invisible chaos that has become like normalized in the organizations without knowing like the root cause of it and everything. So that really just like draws a picture that is quite like painful and even worrying for a lot of organizations, right? It's business. So apart from all of this like obvious inefficiencies that we see, what impact does this have? Let's talk about those real business impacts as well.
Yeah, so yeah, building up on my example, if we take that story, right? So the compliance and security piece is the most crucial piece in this, right? So
Sure.
having a real data leak or a data breach sort of situation, you are bound by law to kind of disclose that in the right amount of time, fix the leak in the correct amount of time, and yeah, and not to mention the SLAs that you're breaching and all this ping pong that is going on. So that has to be like the biggest concern. Another concern is obviously the customer experience, right? I don't need to define it. Obviously, the customer had a poor experience in this case, but it doesn't stop there, right? It snowballs. If that customer is having this sort of experience, eventually, when you go into renewal conversations, when you go into those negotiations, you they most likely churn, right? And it's not based on the software that you're providing. It's based on your broken systems, which are not talking to each other and not delivering the customer value at the correct time, right?
Mhm.
And one hidden cost, Manoj, that a lot of people tend to ignore, I think, everybody knows it, but we seem to ignore it. Think about all the man hours that have gone into this story, right?
Exactly.
Think about support, a support engineer constantly trying to get an update, escalating it to his management, going over to the other management, and then you go into post-mortems, you go into deep dives as to what broke here, and all those man hours accumulate, right? And what's at the heart of it? It's not a people problem, right? It's a problem that your systems are totally disconnected and not talking to each other like they should be.
For sure, for sure. And let's think of like the cost. So why do organizations end up in this situation? From the top of my head, one of the things might actually be like the native integrations, because that's the first thing that organizations usually go for. They are already in an ecosystem and there's a native integration. Voila. So I go for that first. Can it be one of the causes?
Yeah, I agree absolutely. Like
Yeah.
I don't think anybody chooses to be in this situation. Like you'd be shocked if somebody said that email and Slack is my integration strategy. Can you imagine
For
that,
sure,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen. So yeah, people get pulled into different traps
Hmm.
and for different reasons, obviously, right? So you pick native integrations. Yeah, that's a very easy trap to get into. Now, what is a native integration? So whatever ITSM tooling that you're using probably has a built-in integration to third-party apps, right? To other ITSM platforms, to other things. And it's extremely easy and user-friendly because it's your tool of choice. You are within that ITSM working for 10 years or whatever, and it's a step away to connect to another system. All goes well up to that point. Uh, these native integrations are great to hand over stuff. So you get
Mhm.
your P1, you hit a button and it lands into the Jira of the engineering team. So far, so good, right? But the moment that you try to add complexities to it, business logic to it, you want to map statuses, you want to map priorities, you want to have internal comments not going over, just any nuances, any level of complexity into it. That's where they start breaking. Now, the trap here is that you're so far into the native integration, you like the teams are exposed to it, it's already working. You try to invent what is not there. So we've spoken to enough clients over the years who try out the native integration. It works well in a single team, single instance sort of a scenario. But the moment they want to do elaborate stuff with it, yeah, they find out that they need a proper integration solution at that point. So
Okay.
yeah, indeed, native integrations do get you stuck.
All right. Can I also say that this is like, yeah, this looks like a scaling problem when you have like multiple tools like being added to your stack and everything. As you scale up, then you also, get trapped in all of this.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I
Hmm.
wouldn't call it like a scaling problem. It's just that the scaling kind of reveals the underlying problems that you've built over the years, right? So scaling exposes it. So when you're a small team, probably working in one office organization or one premises, it's very easy to go and talk to another person on the other desk and just escalate properly and like pass on everything that is required. Now, when you try to scale that up, when it becomes 10 teams working in 5 locations across the globe, different time zones, different workflows, it's a pain. How do you hand off? How do you do all that nicely? So yes, scaling is a big factor in this, but not scaling per se. It's just your processes are broken.
Okay. I see. Makes a lot of sense. It just all comes to the surface, right? As you scale up and then you see it. Okay.
Indeed.
Um, then it's really just like raises the question. So how about do it yourself? The famous DIY. I want to build it in-house. I have the experts, right? I have my engineers in-house and I want to build it, especially now that with AI supposedly, so everything is enabled, right? So I want to do it in-house and I want to do it myself because I know what suits me better. How about that scenario?
Of course, and it's a great question, right? It's so I always used to hear this from clients, but now with AI into the mix, as you rightly said, you hear it much more,
Of
right?
course, yeah.
Because so previously it used to be we have a team of engineers, we understand APIs, we understand the ITSM system. Yeah,
Mm,
how difficult could it be to build that up?
mm,
But now it's like let's hand over the problem to AI and let it deal with it. But I think people underestimate the complexity that is involved in setting up a true bidirectional integration, right? It's not just about sending API requests to the other side. It's a whole different ball game. So to answer your question, I think AI itself cannot ever possibly be an integration layer, right? It's just inherently not that. So integrations have to be deterministic by definition, right? That means that 100% of the time it needs to give the result that is expected. But AI in its nature is probabilistic, right? And to get a deterministic integration going with that system is, I don't know, it's unlikely, let's say, at this stage. But where AI really comes into its own is when people try to build a deterministic integration using the system. So you set very strict guardrails and you try to get an integration going. Now, that is something which we see much more of, right? And the pitfalls there are that even though the AI is superb in researching the APIs and researching the ITSM tool of choice, it doesn't understand the human aspect of it and how people interact with those systems on a day-to-day basis. And no amount of prompting kind of gets you there, at least in my experience so far. So this approach, if I may say, of like building it yourself is actually fundamentally flawed, right? Integrations are not about connecting systems. It's about synchronizing behavior and developing a synergy between people and systems. It's like all that has to be seamless.
I
So
see.
indeed, it's a very fast changing landscape. Let's see how where we land into, but at the moment that this is my opinion on it.
And yeah, all of it also boils down to the like ROI. It's all business, right? At the end of the day, the
Indeed.
business should actually like do well. And then what is the ROI of like doing it in-house and building it yourself and everything in the long run?
Yeah, and the other aspect of this is that okay, you build a semi-working integration out with AI and you put it into production, and then it breaks 3 months later or needs enhancement, and then yeah, what's the ROI there? It's an interesting question, isn't it?
Or your engineer leaves, which happens
Yeah,
all, right? So yeah, I see.
precisely.
Okay, so let's get past this and say that, all right, we want to connect our multiple ITSM instances, whether it's between like two teams or two organizations, or in a lot of cases that we also handle is just like a service provider who is connecting to like multiple end clients with like
Mm,
different ITSM systems and everything else. What are the technical non-negotiables?
right, that's a good question. So, what should an integration solution essentially deliver as a non-negotiable? So, in essence, I think it needs to be a real-time bidirectional sync. That's the first, like that's the definition basically. Now, both pieces are important. Real time is important because updates need to flow close to real time and it needs to be bidirectional. This is important because both parties need to live in the same reality, right? If the status on my side of a ticket is in progress, but you are actually waiting for support, then you're totally disconnected, right? And I cannot wait 1 hour for my status to change. So yeah, the real-time bidirectional sync is a given.
Hmm.
Uh, in addition to that, the transformative aspect of it is pretty important, right? So each system is different. It has its own schemas, it has its own workflows, and whatever integration solution you put in the middle needs to be able to transform data from one set of workflows and schemas to another one, right? Because it's hardly that you're going to find a like for like. And all that needs to work seamlessly. Uh, and lastly, for me, like on top of that, it's the flexibility. The tooling itself needs to be flexible enough to allow the end users to be able to make changes, right? So they can change their workflow tomorrow if the business demands. They can add more custom fields. They can change how the common behavior works. And every time you don't go back and rebuild the integration solution, it has to be able to survive that change. So bi-directionality, resilience, transformative aspect, and
Mhm.
extensibility, right? Those are the pillars that a good integration solution must have.
So that scaling that we talked about actually doesn't break anything, but it grows with you and it gets adapted to your needs and everything, to your scenarios.
Precisely.
Okay, so I understand that disconnecting all of these disconnected like ITSM systems and everything is just like more than, like you said, API calls or just like status update here, status update there. And I understand that it has to be like very well thought out. So because your tooling should also support all the nuances and everything else. So how do you design it around all of these possible pitfalls so the integration actually works? And if it's possible
Uh,
to actually like see something in action, that would be perfect.
yeah, I think you answered that already, right? You said like it has to be very well thought out, and as long as that, think about the case that I just developed with three parties, three different systems, and all talking to each other, right? Now, I'm just going to mimic that and kind of take you through how it should look like in a totally synchronized world, right? So you have a Jira Service Management, you have another instance of Jira software where engineers are working, and then you have a service now where your ops guys are working, right?
Mhm.
So how did the change start? The change started in JSM. Now I know I'm not using the customer portal, but it's the same thing. So let's say there's a data leak happening now. Fix it. All right. So the customer starts the process by filing uh, a P1, right? Like a data leak happening. The support agent comes in, picks up the ticket, realizes that it's the biggest pain ever, marks it as a P1, and then immediately marks the workflow as escalated. Now, this escalated status is enough uh, for the integration to pick up, to realize that okay, this is the trigger that I need to pick up and send the ticket over to the engineering Jira. Now, the engineer needs to have that confidence in the integration itself that this would automatically work on the back end and go and create the Jira ticket. That's what it's about. Otherwise, you again fall back to the traps of Slack and emails. Once done, the engineer gets a visual confirmation that the ticket is created, and he gets a link to the engineering ticket directly if he wants. And this is the counterpart of the ticket that got created in engineering's Jira and Jira software. I'm just going to move it here for clarity. Right. So what happens on the engineering side? So let's say the engineer gets assigned to the case. He marks the ticket as in progress. He's started working on it, and he provides a confirmation. Now, all this while the engineer is working in his own system should all reflect the reality for the support agent as well, because this is what really where the friction comes in. So if we go to his side now, the ticket is already you can see that it's assigned to an engineer on the engineering side, and the ticket is marked as in progress, and you get a comment saying we're on it. All right, superb. I'm not going to take you through the entire flow, but you could have added logs here, and they would come into the Jira software. That's just obvious things are there. Now, the engineer, let's say after 30 minutes, resolves it actually. So I fixed the code base, all good. Uh, Creating a subtask for deployment. Right. So he's happy. He's created the fix, and within no time, all he has to do is he has to create a subtask so the ops people can kind of get on it. I'm now going to go into the subtask. All right. So I go into the subtask, we assign it, we mark it as important, and we get started on it. Right. Now, this is all happening in engineering's Jira, right? What's happening on the support side? Let's take a look. So on the support side, yes, support have visibility over it. They already know that, okay, the engineer has fixed it and he's created a subtask for deployment. And yes, support have visibility over that subtask as well in their own Jira, right? So now they can start tracking this to see what's going on. Now, let's switch over to ServiceNow and see if the deployment ticket got created. So on the ServiceNow side, where the ops guys are working, they get a deploy to ROD request. Sorry about the spelling mistake. But yeah, so they get a request on their side to start the deployment. Now, this is where it gets interesting, right? Okay, let's assign it. And all right, so let's say that the ops guys say, uh, don't work on this. This is not approved by management yet. So let's say they add an internal work note, like some team manager adds something to the engineer that, listen, hang on here, get approval. Uh, and then you add a public comment saying, I need this approval, right? Pretty standard stuff in any organization. So now what the integration does is, so who will give the approval? Eventually the customer via support. Now, this comment flows back to the engineering JIRA, but engineering had nothing to do with it. But it seamlessly also should flow back to the subtask that support had. So support already clearly see that, okay, ops need approval, and support can provide that immediately. And again, as seamlessly as this, support's approval should now flow all the way through engineering to the ops guys, and the ops guys should have it pretty soon. Should we do a refresh? All right, so we got the approval, all good. You got the name of the person approving it. Everything's all good. Let's say we complete it, we resolve it. So the chain is that engineering created that subtask. It went to ops. Ops deployed it after the approval. It now they resolved their ticket because yeah, it's all done essentially, right? So what happens on the Jira side? Awesome. So my ticket is automatically closed. I don't even need to care about it. I'll come into the main ticket where I was talking to support, and I'll tell the support people, even though support already have visibility, but I will tell them all done, closing this now. So within that time frame, it's done, right? So engineering have closed the ticket. Now this should hopefully bring the support ticket back into waiting for support status, and you got the comment. So I think you get the picture of how this flows, right? So the point here is that people should actually spend time on working rather than updating other parties, keeping other things involved. You just focus on your problem, you deal with it, and all this can be customized in any number of ways. I just did it exactly with the example that I gave you. But if your workflows were different, yeah, we could have tailored it around that. So yeah, that's about it.
Perfect. Okay, then I think I can safely conclude, Majid, that they were two like what is it, metrics that you were actually like talking about, time to resolution and the number
Ah,
of tickets missed, right? So let's talk about those metrics. Is there anything else that you want to like discuss there?
yeah, so I'm a support person, right? So that is the closest thing to my heart. TTR, time to resolution, and zero missed tickets. Absolutely crucial metrics, right? Uh, and this whole flow would dramatically reduce that because just it's very simple to see. Like you don't need to email people, you don't need to wait for Slack messages. It's just all happening automatically. Your statuses are changing automatically. So the SLA counters that come into the piece all are respected in that. Uh, there are a couple of other things that people usually should measure and people do measure, right? So one is that after you put an integration into place, you should measure what the manual intervention rate is, right? And over months, you need to track it because the more the people are manually intervening, it's an opportunity for you to plug the gaps within the integration because they're manually intervening because something didn't work as expected, right? And
Mm.
your integration kind of becomes more robust over time if you keep doing that. Uh, and lastly is confidence. Very, very difficult to measure, right? So operational confidence is like a silent metric. If people have operational confidence in the system, yeah, you'll not never hear about it. You won't see it, right? So yeah, confidence in the system is also another key metric to measure here.
Perfect. Okay, that explains it. So, oh, all right. So with that, thank you for the whole overview and everything. And I think the demo itself also like clarified a lot of things. I have one last question, and that is, let's say that somebody's currently drowning in the whole like email threads and everything that we talked about, and they are ready to come to the good side. What do you say the first step should be for these guys to implement like the right integration and everything? Because we all know that this is a difficult and a painful project. Let's be honest about that.
Yeah, I've had many of these conversations, and the first step is like the crucial one, isn't it? So,
Yeah.
uh, my approach is rather radical. It's a bit, you might find it weird, but I tell people to actually forget about the integration topic, to forget about the tools they use. Don't get too technical into it. Start with your workflows. Analyze how your team collaborates, how the handoff work, what is expected, what data do they need, what data do you need back as an acknowledgement. Chart all that journey out. And once you have it, that's your integration. That's your integration strategy done, right? And then you start going granular into it. Now, when you go granular, you need to start thinking about what data you need to expose to the other side. And similarly, what data you want from the other side, right? And that's your listing of fields essentially in an ITSM platform that you need to integrate. And then transformations come into it and stuff like that. But really, the human aspect of it cannot be underestimated because that is what you're trying to ease at the end of the day. You're trying to get better times to resolution by ensuring that these handoffs happen seamlessly and everybody's able to do their job. So that's the approach that we go with. We've got a little tool called ADA Plan, which is basically a conversational AI where you describe your integration problem to the AI, just like you would do in any AI tooling. And it would prompt you for the correct questions. It would ask you, okay, if you have a bug in one system, what do you want to create on the other system? And then you answer it. And then it asks you for what fields. And you, within that conversation context, you build up an entire integration story that eventually becomes a nice document that anybody can follow to then create the integration, right? So yeah, that's how I would get started indeed.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Majid. For the guys who are interested in Ada Plan, you can go to docs.exalate.com. That's where Ada resides today, along with within our product. So go check it out. It helps you with like planning your integration and everything else. And feel free to reach out to Majid if you have any technical questions. Reach out to me if you have like topics for our coming episodes and everything. This is the final episode of 2025. We will see you after holiday season in January with more interesting topics. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining this webinar, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Manush, for
Goodbye.
hosting us. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Ajay. Bye bye.